My name is Ansel, and today I'm going to show you how to design a resume using Figma. It's okay if you haven't used Figma before because I'm going to go over all of the basics. Figma is a powerful UI and UX design tool, and it's one of my favorites to use. So today we're going to talk a little bit about frames, shapes, letter spacing, text decorations, hyperlinks, components, icons, vertical and horizontal spacing, and a little bit more. So I'll give you some tips and tricks along the way. So what we're going to do is recreate the resume that you see on the left. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is familiarize yourself with this leftmost navigation. So on the top left, you'll see an icon that looks similar to a grid. And if you hover over it, you'll see that it's called Region Tools. So let's go ahead and click on the drop down. You'll see two options, Frame and Slice. So let's go ahead and click on Frame. When you click on Frame, you'll see different templates that you can use. So you can design for a phone screen, tablet, desktop, watch, or paper. We're going to go ahead and choose paper, and we're going to choose A4, the size of a traditional piece of printer paper. So when I click on A4, I get a frame that pops up. I'm going to go ahead and rename it since it's already selected. I can go to layers and rename it whatever I want. I'm going to go ahead and call it resume. This is just so we can find it easier in the future. So now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and start with the very base of this design, which is in the form of a sidebar and a header. So this is just two rectangles. So we're going to go ahead and draw two rectangles. So right next to this grid where you found the frame, we're going to go ahead and click on Shape Tools. You'll have a bunch of different options for shapes that you can choose from, but we're going to go ahead and choose rectangle. So now we're just going to drag our cursor and drop it to create the rectangle shape. And I'm going to do this one more time for the sidebar. So now that we have this core structure, we're going to go ahead and change the color so it mimics the one on the left. How we're going to do this is by selecting the object, so that is just done by clicking on the object, and then on the right hand side, you'll see a little section called Fill. You can go ahead and click the color, and you'll be able to choose any color from the section. You can also change the hex code if that's something you're more comfortable with. However, I'm going to show you how to use the eyedropper tool. So the eyedropper tool lets you select an object and change the color of that object to any other object on that screen. So if I didn't have the hex code for this, I could, for example, just click on the eyedropper tool and the color will automatically be applied. So I'm going to do the exact same thing for the sidebar. So again, I'm selecting the object, I'm going to fill, I'm clicking on the eyedropper tool, and I'm clicking on the color that I want. Voila! So now, as you can tell, the sidebar is above the header navigation, which we don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click. I'm on a Mac, so that's Control and right-click. And I'm going to choose the option to send this sidebar to the back. All this does is change the order of the objects so the header shows up in front. So now we're going to go ahead and write some text. I'm going to go ahead and find the text, and it's right next to the rectangle on the top navigation. There's a pen tool, and then there's the text. So now I'm going to click on the screen where I want the text to go, and I want it to go right there. So I'm going to go ahead and write my name. As you can tell, this isn't the font, size, or color that we're looking for. So I have selected all of the text. I'm going to go to text. It's in the text section on the right hand side. And I'm going to go ahead and change the font. The font I used is Source Serif Pro. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and change the font size to 48. And I'm going to change the color to white. So that's under Fill, the same way we changed the color of the rectangle. Still, you can see there's a difference between my name on the right and my name on the left. The difference is now the letter spacing. So under font size, if you select the object, go to font size, and right under that, you'll see letter spacing. So I'm going to go ahead and change the letter spacing to 20%. And you'll see it now mimics the one on the left. So now what I'm going to do is align this a little better. So Figma has alignment tools built in. So you can see as I'm moving this around, it automatically tells me where I am in relation to both the frame and my object. So I can center this and keep it towards the top or wherever I want. So now that I have my name, I'm just going to write position title. So I want most of the same text formatting, so I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste my name. And so that's Command C, Command V. Again, I'm on a Mac, and I'm going to drag that down. I'm going to change that from my name to position title. I'm going to select all of the text, and I'm just going to change the font size to 24. And now that I've done that, I can use Figma's built-in alignment tool to go ahead and move that where I see fit. So there we go. So now we're going to work on the different sections of the main content. So that would be education, relevant experience, and leadership experience. So it has most of the same font formatting as position title. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste position title. So that's Command C, Command V, and then I'm going to drag it down onto the screen. It is currently white, so you can't see it. So now that I have the object selected, I'm going to go back to Fill and change the color to black. There we go. Now I'm going to change the font size from 24 to 18 since it's still a little big. And I'm going to change the content to say education. I'm going to copy and paste education to make separate sections for both relevant experience and leadership experience. We can go ahead and move this as needed. So when I double click, I can change the text from education to relevant experience. And again, I can do the same thing, education to leadership experience. Feel free to customize this how you see fit, so if you want to put projects or coursework instead, that would be completely fine. So now I'm going to add in the content for my education. So I'm going back to my navigation at the top left. I'm going to click on T for text, and then I'm going to type where I want the text to go. So I want the text to go in the education section. So I'm going to go ahead and start typing. University. And you'll see that the font looks similar to the font that we had just used, which isn't necessarily readable if you have a large chunk of text. So what we're going to do now is select all of the text. I'm doing this by clicking Shift and my up arrow key. If my cursor is on the left, I would click Shift and my down arrow key. I can also just use my cursor to select all of the text. So I'm going to go ahead and change the font size to 12, and I'm going to change the letter spacing to 0. And this looks like text you're probably more familiar with that is a lot more readable. So I'm going to go ahead and align that and add in some information. So university name, location. I'm also going to add in what my major was. So I have a Bachelor of Science in major. And you can add in any other details. So if you have extracurriculars, go ahead and add that, or you can add in some honors. I'm just going to add in honors and dean's list. So now you can see that the one on the left has the university name and location highlighted in bold. So I'm actually going to do the same thing. So how you would do this is basically click into the text box and highlight just the line that you want bolded. So I'm doing this with my cursor. Again, my cursor is on the left, clicking Shift, clicking down. There are multiple ways to do this. And then once I have this highlighted, I'm going to text. I'm going to click where you see the font, you see regular. I'm going to go ahead and click bold. You can use semi-bold or light or however you see fit. And there we go. And that's bold. So now I'm going to do a similar thing on the right-hand side where I put my graduation date and I put my GPA. So June 2020 and GPA. Let's pretend it's a 4.0. So again, GPA is actually bold. So I'm going to go ahead and bold this. But this time I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut. So I'm just going to use Command B to bold that. There we go. And now I'm just going to align it. Again, I'm going to use Figma's alignment tool. So the red lines kind of guide me and let me know that it is centered and aligned. There we go. So now I'm going to work on the main content. So position title and my actual experience. So I'm going to go ahead back to my navigation bar, click on text, and I'm just going to create a nice little text box to work in. So what I'm going to do now is write the information they're asking for. So position title, company, location, and time period. Position title is bolded, so I'm going to go ahead, select that. Again, I use Shift, my up arrow key, and I'm going to press Command B to bold that. So now what I have on the left is content that is actually using bullet points. You can use bullet points, but Figma also allows you to use multiple different things. So if you go ahead and select into your text box, you can use hyphens, you can go to the type details, use indents, and a bunch of different things. But since I'm using lorem ipsum text, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste it for the sake of this video. So I Command C and I Command V. As you can tell, it's not exactly perfect to what this looks like. This is because this box is a little too small, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. And there we go. And now, what I'm going to do next is make this into a component. So that means I have to right click, and on a Mac that's Control right click, and I'm going to create a component. And you're probably wondering why I did that, and I will explain in just a second. So now I'm going to take this off the screen, and I'm going to rename it to something we can find later. Let's just do experience. There we go. So now that I have this component, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste it and have other components just on my screen. Let's move that there. It's a little close to the edge, so I'm going to move that. Let's add another one. Again, that's just Command C, Command V. And let's add another one for leadership experience. There we go. Okay, so I know this looks a little messy, but we'll go ahead and fix that. So the first thing we're going to do is explain why I made this into a component. So this is known as a master component. And what you can do with the master component is you can make changes that are applied to all of the children components. So let's say I forgot to add the end of the time period. So I'm going to go ahead and just add that in. And that change has now been applied to all of the children components. However, it doesn't necessarily work the other way around. So if I want to delete this bullet point, it won't affect any of the other components, which is how you can still edit it and make it work accordingly. This is super useful if you suddenly decide to add an indent or if you want to change the bullet points to hyphens. So now we're going to clean this up a little bit. Let's go ahead and make the sidebar a little smaller. So all I'm going to do is select the sidebar, and then I'm using my cursor to just drag it to make it smaller. Now I'm going to move all of the objects a little bit to the left. And now I'm going to show you a really cool trick. I'm going to select all of the objects. So I'm going to click on the object and then press Shift, click on another object, press Shift, another object, and I'm going to do that throughout. So this lets me click on multiple objects, and I'm going to take you to the top right of your screen where you'll see different alignments. So I'm going to go ahead and align everything to the left, which allows me to do it all in one go, which is fantastic. So now it's still a little messy, so I'm going to go ahead and add one more to take the white space. So again, I just did a Command C, and now I'm going to go ahead and clear that out so it's a little cleaner. There we go. And now to make sure that the spacing is equal between all three of these, I'm going to go ahead and click on all of them. So again, Shift, click on the object, Shift, click on the objects, and I'm going back to the alignment, and I'm going to click on more options this time. And I'm going to click on Distribute Vertical Spacing. So all this did was organize how far apart these are from each other. You can of course clean it up further, so if you want to add it here, you can go ahead and do that as needed. And this is why it's also really important to make sure that your boxes follow the size of your text box. So when you do decide to use vertical spacing, it follows the exact size of your text box and not the side of the box that you have. So now all that's left is the left sidebar. So I already have these icons imported, so I'm actually just going to copy and paste them over to the right side. But I will explain how to do that with an icon and how to import it and what type of icon to import in just a second. So now that I have these icons, how you would do that is you would download it from a website, or you can make it yourself. I tend to make mine on Figma, and I would highly recommend using an SVG file. This is because when you use an SVG file, you can go ahead and change the color of the background of the icon and make it suit your design needs. But I'm still going to use black for the sake of this video. So when you have an icon downloaded, you can go ahead and go to the navigation on the top left, click on the hamburger menu, go to File, Place Image. Place Image will allow you to browse your computer to look for the file. You can also do this through Shape and look for Place Image. When you do look for an icon, make sure you have the copyright license to use it, and or find one for free, and or make it yourself. So now that we have the icons, I'm going to go ahead and add some text. I'm going to go ahead and write my phone number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to go ahead and just copy this over for both mail, my LinkedIn, and my website. Okay, so now I'm going to change my mail. I'm going to double click on my phone number and just write my email@gmail.com. And I'm going to go ahead and center that. Again, I'm just going to use Figma's inbuilt alignment tool. I'm going to do the same with my LinkedIn, linkedin.com. Center that using Figma. And my website, website.com. Sorry about that typo. And just going to center that as well. So now, when you download this into a PDF form, you do want to be able to click on this as a hyperlink so it automatically redirects the viewer to the next page. So how we're going to do that is we're actually going to click on the text box that we want to hyperlink and look for this hyperlink icon in the center of the navigation bar at the very top. So it looks like a little paperclip. We're just going to click link. And then for email, we're just going to write mail to, and then the email, and press enter, and we're good to go. We're going to do the same thing with LinkedIn, but instead we're just going to write linkedin.com, and we're going to do the same thing. Go ahead, click on that, write website.com, and enter. There we go. So now what you'll notice is that they all have an underline under it, which is great because it's a signifier that these are hyperlinked, and you can also confirm that when you hover over it. However, for the sake of this design, we're going to get rid of the text decoration. So what we're going to do is select the object and press Shift, select the next object, press Shift, select the next object. Again, this allows you to apply the same function to all the objects selected. And now we're going to go to text on the right-hand side. We're going to click on the type details, which is a more option, and we're going to look for decoration. So this is strike through, you can underline, or you can have no decoration. So we're going to go ahead and choose none. And there we go. So now we've gotten rid of that, but if you still hover over it, you'll know that it's still hyperlinked. So now the next part is adding titles for our sidebar, so both tech skills and soft skills. You can change this accordingly to whatever you're interested in, so if you have more project details or coursework that you want to share, that would be perfectly fine. But I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste education because it has the same font format that I'm looking for both tech skills and soft skills. Soft skills, so let's go ahead and center this. I'm going to use an alignment tool, so I'm going to select this sidebar, I'm going to select tech skills, again I'm just pressing Shift, and then I'm going to select soft skills. And I'm going to go back to where I found the alignment on the top right, and I'm going to click on the center one. And there we go, it's all centered. So now I'm going to find my text box, and I'm going to write skill. So again, skill is in the same font format as the text we last edited, so I'm going back to text, I'm going to write 12, and no letter spacing. And I'm going to go ahead, center that, and then I'm just going to copy and paste it multiple times. I'm not going to worry too much about spacing because I know I can fix that really quickly. So again, I'm just going to select all of them. Going back to my spacing and my alignment tool, I'm going to click on more options and I'm going to click on distribute vertical spacing. So now I notice that there's a lot of space between soft skills and my last skill. So I'm going to go ahead and move that upwards, and I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the skill and its spacing below. So again, I'm selecting all the objects, Command C, Command V, and then I'm just going to move that downwards to where I want it to go, and Figma allows me to align it as needed. And there we go. That is how to design a resume using Figma. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.